Hello and welcome into Limited Time Only, brought to you by Sorare Data. I am Andrew Laird, head of content here at Sorare Data. Joined by Keith Jamison, Gator Guy 231 on Sorare today to talk about spending tons of money for the best cards and whether that's a good idea or not. Shout out to Johannatan, who's playing the How Late is Laird Going to Be Today? I think it was a minute. Might be 2 minutes. And ZM Star says I'm skirting a suspension for all the accumulated yellows for being late this week. And yeah, it's Keith's fault.
We were playing the game of Can You Hear Me Now for a minute.
Fundamentally, that's exactly what we were doing. But thank you to everybody for joining us. There are some likes on the video. Thank you very much for those of you who have done that. If the others could do that despite the slight lateness, I would appreciate it. Jay Blaze says, can't wait. This was before we started. And unfortunately, when you show up 13 minutes early, 45 minutes early, you're going to have to wait a little bit. So anyway, hello, everyone. Surface. Hello, Jao Nunez. Good afternoon. Kadir says, how late is it there? I'm from the Netherlands. We're actually on time here. You might be late in the Netherlands, but we were actually on time here in the States.
I wonder if Netherlands is one of those places it's acceptable to be 5 minutes late, still be on time.
Yeah, there are those people who are like, if you're not, what is it? If you're not
15 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah. But no, we were just.
But there's some cultures that being late is acceptable within a certain. No, am I just making this?
Apparently, it is not the Sorare culture. Nobody's accepting that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about limiteds and how to spend all your money. And really, I feel like this is a topic that probably should have come up much later in this show. Like, we should have done a lot more episodes before we got to this point. But there were too many people asking us to talk about it. And because we kind of made a few points, certainly last week, and maybe some the week before, of at some point, you are spending so much money on limited, should you just play rares? Because from a raw fiat perspective, the returns are higher at rare and super rare. And so what things do you need to consider, basically, in order to move from limited to rare, if you want to? Nobody says you have to.
Right.
I know the game is set up to progress, but not everybody needs to, and so it's fine. So before we get in there, but off topic immediately, Kater says the Netherlands is really strict with timing. So I guess we are late in the Netherlands. But I have a Turkish background will always be late. Yeah. So.
All right, Turkish. This needs to become a Turkish show then.
I have many more Turkish Super League cards than I do Eredivisie, so I will happily say that we're late. But anyway, Keith, when somebody asks you, how much money do I need to do X, Y, and Z? And if they are like, how much should I spend on limiteds before I move to rares? Is there even like a dollar amount in your head?
No, we just had a good buddy in a chat that we're in kind of asked that for a buddy. And I think both of our responses were like, it really just depends. And, he went on to say, his friend's wanting just to compete with Premier League because he wants to be able to follow along the games and know all the names. And so I'm like, that just sounds like a great idea. And you should just put in what you're comfortable with to get the names that you like and go on from there. And I think that that's actually the only correct answer I've ever heard to this question is what makes you happy? What's going to make the game enjoy and not just necessarily just lead out with ROI.
So my response to that question was just that's actually the wrong way to play Sorare, but I'm not here to tell people what to do.
Which part? Me? What we said there? Or,
no.
Just following with
I think I just want to play Premier League. And it's okay, but you're getting 10% out of the Sorare experience if that's what you do. But I appreciate not everyone's jumping in to buy our Turkish Super League cards.
Let me ask you a question on that. Let me counterpoint you. Do you think, though, a strategy like that is actually better for overall retention? That you're likely to stay on the game longer versus, you go, the person that refers you go, yeah, you should research J League and K League. And don't be worried that the K League scores don't show up for a day. It takes about 2 to 3 days, but they'll come. Don't worry. Don't you think that actually might be a better experience to have the dudes that maybe you don't think so?
So I think the issue is that your experience is I'm going to buy all these Premier League cards and then you lose to the K-League cards, and you're like, what? How does that happen? Who are these K-League?
They scored more. I mean, that's easy. They scored more. I mean,
I'm just saying. I think that's the problem.
Go buy an Elber. Go buy an Elber.
It's the problem with saying like I just want to play the Premier League, and I realize that we have like Premier League only competitions, but at some point, the goal, it seems, is to play more, and so that's what you need to do. Like you can't just stay in the Premier League the whole time. ZM Star saying, "Is anyone else hear a high pitched sound? I have headphones at work, but just checking. I don't, but it's probably
anybody else. Just let us know.
Yeah, please let me know.
It's probably me.
Yeah, I don't hear it, but that doesn't mean anything. So there are two comments in the chat that I want to bring out. ZM Star was the first one. I agree with this strat. I just got out of my rares to have fun with limiteds only and have the stars. I'm now rocking Carlos Gil, Lionel Messi, Henny Mukhtar, and for Laird, and because I'm Portuguese, a João Felix. So awesome. I don't even have a João Felix limited card.
Yeah.
But the other side was, where did it go? Here it is. I'm going to say this is Airborne 3 with 2 X's at the beginning and the end. I sold my limiteds a couple of weeks ago and went into cap 240 rare. So that's where we are. Those are, that's not the only options, but effectively that's where people are. It's like, do you want to grind the K-League with rares, or do you want Carlos Gil and Messi and limiteds, or do you want to try to get the $50 threshold every week or move up, or the $5 versus the $5 for limited? So Chris also pointed out Prem cards are shite, which not all of them. But anyway, so I think, and it's exactly kind of what ZM Star said. Like he sold his limiteds, their limits, sorry, and the point was to get the best limited players. Kadir said, I actually did the opposite. I sold all my MLS and J League to build a stronger Europe All-Star Challenger and second vision because of the budget. I could not do both. So that's actually a totally different show. I'm not going to get into that right now.
Yeah, very different show.
And ABC Trade says, why not just have multiple limited teams and a cap 240 and 220 team, which is definitely closer to the Sean Newsham method of playing Sorare of like, yeah, just throw in some more money and buy some more cards. And so there's that. But anyway, so the idea of let me just buy the best cards, which was part of what I tried to do when I first bought limiteds. And I first bought limiteds when limiteds first came out. And it was like, I'm going to buy the cards that I can't get rares of. But I didn't actually buy the best ones. Like I didn't buy the most expensive cards. I didn't buy Messi. I didn't buy Neymar. I didn't buy any of the Kimmich. I didn't buy any of the Bayern guys. And I was like, I'm going to get the guys who will win me those. So I bought like Morioka and Kikuchi because I'd been in the game long enough to know that those were like great players. Ultimately, I didn't win anything. But the point now is, what does it actually cost to buy the best players? And that question in itself is very loaded because budgetary constraints can say, I just want to buy like the 8 best cards and play All-Star. I want to buy enough cards where I can play every limited competition. And obviously buying 8 cards versus 50 cards is very different in terms of your budget. Keith and I are going to probably go through both because we discussed this a little bit. And even the conversation of what are the best cards is like a discussion that needs to be had. Jumpshoot, drop it in and say hi. Jumpshoot, what's up? Somebody else. Bouncy here. 2:30 a.m. Finally get to catch a live stream. Wow. Not what I would.
It's actually funny how you just said that about, that it's a very different conversation, like who the best players are. And I would actually go like, yeah, because every single competition I could argue different. Like, in a cap 240, there's no actual answer. It's like, well, who's the best L15 versus matchup this week? And that's the best player. In Asia, it's one thing. And it's like, okay, well, what time of year are we in? Because, Carlos Gil could be the best this summer, but as soon as Joshua Kimmich is back, that type of thing. I don't know if I'm the same way, right? So I think it's a very like loaded and awesome question, which is sort of like why silver is so cool, because it's always so fluid.
Yeah, and nothing's stopping you from buying like the 5 best America Asia cards to play All-Star in the summer and then selling them for the Europeans when the European season starts. Like there are plenty of ways you can do it. But we pretty much wanted to take this to the max. So the idea is like, if we show you how much it costs to get everything, then obviously if you want less than that, it costs less. So you just do it that way. So Keith and I kind of casually threw some teams together in terms like 5-player teams. We actually didn't do any subs and not subs, but extra cards, which you will definitely have to do. But we made a All-Star, U23, Champion Europe, Challenger Europe, Champion America, Champion Asia lineups. I didn't use players from the regions for an all-star team. So like if you wanted to buy 2 Messis, like you could do that. You could play one in America and one in all-star, stuff like that. And I'm perfectly fine having a little debate if there's somebody on this list that shouldn't be, and we can easily switch them out. So the link to this watch list is in the description of the video. But if you just go to your watch list, to the watch list page on Sorare Data, I just did LTO, which is limited time only. I don't know if that's going to catch on, but I use it. And then like top limited players. So obviously the first one we see, he's already hurt, which is Kevin De Bruyne. I think I used De Bruyne for All-Star because I used Kimmich for Champion Europe. Let me just go quickly through at least the teams that I think I did. I'll put it that way, that I think I did. So I think for Champion Europe, I did, anyway.
I think it was,
I did Allison.
I can't remember if it was Courtois or Allison.
Yeah, because like, actually, let me do this. Let's use.
Let's just be honest. Like with this, there's a little bit of fluidity, and the fact of you can do either one. Like there's no wrong answer between those two.
So that's also part of the conversation that needs to be had. I
found it here. I found it, by the way, the teams. So do you want me to say it for Champion?
Yes.
Okay. We had Courtois, TAA, Kimmich, Mbappe, and Bruno.
I think I changed that. I think I changed in my head at least TAA to Allison just because of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like I decided.
Which makes more sense, right? Well, because on the All-Star you have Allison with Virgil.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I did do. All right, that's fine. Sorry. Mbappe and someone else.
Let's be real. Having a conversation or having a debate between Allison or Courtois is a great problem to have if you have both in your gallery.
For sure. Who was the 5th one on this team?
Let me go back to it. It was Bruno, Mbappe, Kimmich, TAA, Courtois.
Yeah. Bruno, who actually finished up much better than I saw. So a few people are bringing this in. Bouncy was like Virgil over Trent, and you could say Trippier and Pope over Virgil and Allison. Yeah, you absolutely could. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing that. The other tricky thing is you're not like maximizing your ROI playing these 5 every week. Like I realize that usually they have good matchups, but like sometimes one just doesn't. And so your ROI is not going to be like quite as good in those weeks. So this lineup costs almost $1,300.
Cost a lot more 2 months ago.
Yeah. Fair enough. But like right away, you can see how this gets pricey. And Blue Tomato says that normally you shouldn't win with this champ team. Like it's got some decent scores.
Yeah.
Like
tier 2.
You're not going to, it's impossible effectively to make a 5-player lineup that is going to win a star every week or even a tier 1. Like just, you need one player out of these 5 has a bad game and you're not remotely close to the podium. And so
especially limiteds, which I think is important to note for people that do go across the division, like specifically limited. Like I think Sean brought it up. Yeah, Sean brought it up on Monday with Ozako, the Japanese striker, that, you know, he mentioned like him being a D2 player because you can get away with a miss or a misfire in, you know, super rare division or unique division because there are less cards, there's less combinations. In limited, where we have the greatest supply of all the cards, like you have to be perfect to get a codium. Like there's not like a week that, you know, you just had it, Laird. What was it, 2 weeks ago with the goalie that you didn't get Odysseus? If you got Odysseus, was it a podium or you would have won?
First place.
You would have won, but instead your goalie got like a 36 and you got 70th, something like that.
Not even sure it was that high.
But the point remains, right? You were perfect everywhere else, but the one part, and it wasn't like you just went from first to fifth. It was like 70 something spots. That's kind of my point.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, if you're trying to podium, if your goalie concedes, you're dead. Like, period.
Right. Or your
nobody's getting a clean sheet every
60. Exactly. Although Lars Innerstall at home felt like that. I don't think he conceded a goal for like the first 3 months at home for Twins.
Maybe. So I was thinking of
felt like that for a bit.
Who's the Segunda or La Liga smart?
Oh, the dude when he
Jose
came on.
Caro.
Yeah, what was it, like 10 straight clean sheets or something like that?
I think it might have even been more. It's crazy.
That was wild. Or Ajax, I think, was it last year?
Luke is right about that. That lineup did have Philip the Great Manka. That's even
which, you know, we'll kind of get into that at the point, but like that's the whole part with the matchups and not just buying the best players because you need to, you know, mix and match matchups to prioritize the lineup that you think is the best.
Correct. So the U23 one, and again, I actually don't think that there's any clear U23
Coach
top 5 for next season other than maybe Vinicius Jr. at forward.
Oh, I think Kochu has to be in there. Does he have a full
everyone
year
says that. It's a new team. We just don't know. But like he's here.
Dude, hold on. I'm just gonna fight you because Chiquinho, I think is how you said his name, became relevant in that little pivot 6'8" position. And that guy was like sitting the bench for a while. I don't know. Kochu is gonna be ridiculous.
I'm not saying he's gonna be bad. I'm just saying that it seems like the entire community is completely convinced that he cannot miss, and I think we need to be realistic that it is possible.
Are you saying he's not going to have a 99 L15?
Exactly. I put in Jude. Who knows about Jude? I did Diogo Costa and Schlotterbeck. Yeah. Again, like I'm happy to put anyone else in, but I don't think it actually matters for the purposes of that.
It doesn't. We're here to show the price.
$744. Recent average is 690. So there's that. David Alves says there was a tweet from Sorare. I'm sure it's something.
Yeah. Let's see what you're plugged in.
Let's see. Challenger. That's why I need to get the old guys in to get Tadic. So this one I did Odysseus and Otamendi for your Benfica snack. Yeah. And then did I do full? Yeah, I did. And then 3 from Zenit. Wendell, Malcolm.
Yeah.
That seemed fine to me. If anybody thinks that's not that good, I'm willing to listen. Let's get him in here. Otamendi's he's fine.
Well, Otamendi just re-signed too, so he's very fine.
Yeah.
As an owner, I gave that a fist pump. It was either like him staying or going to River Plate, whichever one.
River, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine.
Now, obviously, somebody brought this up earlier. I want to give them credit for this. Gaz Weatherspoon says you have to compare to stacks like Liverpool and consider the collection bonus, which is absolutely true. I also think that there is a decent chance that people will be really excited with their 5% collection bonus and then realize they're still so far behind because they just didn't score enough points.
Well, and you got to also, so I just want to say two things on that point. One, you get your collection bonuses doesn't mean that you have to 5-stack them. You get your bonuses on your XP whether you play them together or not. So, because like for Liverpool, Alexis McAllister might change the conversation, but Liverpool, that midfield position was a big, like, you want to do double defenders, you want to do probably Salah, and then you're like, and I would rather do Kimmich, right? If I'm going to spend as much, I don't really want to, put James Milner in here, put Thiago, and the worst part is Liverpool always rotates that midfield too. It felt like so. I love the America team, by the way. I will take this America team and put it up against any lineup and the correct matchups and take my chances.
Yeah, so the one I did was Andre Blake, Kai Wagner, Carlos Heel, Lionel Messi, and Lucas Zelarayan, which, to be honest, when I went to do the America one, I was shocked that, A, how quickly it went, and B, that it was all MLS, to be honest.
And let's be real, too. Like, the price is pretty fun, too, in comparison to the Champion or the All-Star.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I have this one marked in Global All-Star just because Messi doesn't qualify for America quite yet. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get the Asia guys in here. Asia was another one where it was kind of like however you wanted to stack, at least in the defender. Like did I end up doing?
You did Nishikawa.
Like I did Nishikawa and Schultz, but you can do the Marinos guys just as easily. I actually threw some Marinos guys in there.
Yep. Yeah, you got Nishikawa, Schultz, Wakazaka. Which, I should, we'll give a special shout out to Tuggy. The moment that he finally got rid of Wakazaka, it allowed Wakazaka to do well. So, and then you have
this is a no Tuggy bashing.
No, it's not Tuggy, but he made a comment to me about that. He's like, I sold him, and he finally did well again.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Okay, so Malky said before, maybe the fundamental decision is: do you want to use players you like, or do you want to win at a higher scarcity using players you've never heard of? That is so rare in a nutshell, to be honest. I think that's a great way to put it. And the positive is that at some point you will have heard of them, so that's nice. Blue Tomato said, my problem with the quote best cards would be I would always run them up. You both have Carlos Heel, right? Which we do in rare. If you put someone else in your prioritized lineup, if Gil doesn't have a good matchup. I was talking to Keith about this probably last night. Some of I forget what upcoming game week it is. I have two midfielders or maybe whatever, midfielder and extra, whatever it was that have significantly better matchups than Carlos Heel that week. Zelarayan was one, I remember. I forget who the other one was. And I take Carlos Heel out of my priority lineup that week.
And I think that's, I'll tell you too, I'm trying to remember what example it was, but as you build up your depth in your galleries and you get more players, that actually becomes one of the hardest things, at least for me, is knowing like the price of a player and like all of a sudden going, I actually can't find a spot for him right now, but he like was such an expensive player and he's such a good player. I don't want to put him in training, right? Like, but I can't find a good spot for him. Like I think it might have been like Denny Buanga. I think I thought, might rotate or something like that. And I'm like, I've got these other certainties here, but it feels so wrong to not use them. And I think that's like a really interesting part, kind of with that Carlos Gil question, is like, Gil away. I think you guys use Gil away to Philly, or let's call it Gil away to LAFC, something like that. Like, Zelarayan home to Chicago is a much better play than Gil away to that is. But Gil home versus Miami, as we saw, is an absolute glorious spot. Getting Virgil in there. Yeah, you're muted, Laird.
Sorry about that.
I thought it was me. I'm like, hold on.
My fault. I don't even know what the last thing I said.
Repeat what you were going to say.
So I put it on all teams. So what I was saying is that the players that I put in for All-Star, just ones that are not in other lineups. But theoretically, anyone in another lineup can go into All-Star. Not at the same time, but like you can mix and match. Or you could literally buy 2 Champion Europe lineups and play one in Champion Europe and one in All-Star if you want. You just want to go crazy. But anyway, so to go through the lineups just very quickly, let me start with where's the Champion Europe one? So Champion Europe was Allison, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joshua Kimmich, Mbappe, and Bruno Fernandes, which costs, I'm going to use recent averages, $1,246. Floor price is $34 higher than that, so not too much higher. U23 was Diogo Costa, Schlotterbeck, Bellingham, Vinicius, and Kirchu. $690 recent average, $744 floor price. Challenger is Odysseus, Otamendi, Wendell, Malcolm, and Douglas Santos. Specifically with the Zenit guys, you cannot buy them on auctions anymore, so whatever their prices are, they get a little higher. $455 recent price average, $481 for the floor price. Champion America, Blake, Wagner, Gill, Messi, Zelarayan, which, man, that's fun. I can't wait till Messi's here. $589 recent average, $545 lineup floor price. So somebody's floor price is dropping. It looks like Zelarayan's floor price is lower than his recent average, which is nuts.
Probably because of the international this weekend. People just trying to sell off.
Ridiculous.
For Armenia.
Please.
Have they not seen his goal?
I was going to say, yeah. Asia is Nishikawa, Schultz, Wakizaka, Cecilia, and Hatanaka. And then the leftovers for All-Star, Courtois, Van Dijk, De Bruyne, Tadic, and Griezmann. De Bruyne is one I'm easily willing to replace if anybody's a suggestion, but ultimately doesn't matter. So using the watch list, if you just go to prices, you can see that we've all benefited if you're buying in now. Well, actually, they're up over the last month. But basically, you're at a cumulative price of $3,800 for every player.
Versus January. Players. Go to January. I just want to just give that.
In January, they would have cost, it's about three times that. 361. Yeah. I'll just do the cumulative here. Yeah, 10 grand in January. If you liked it at 10, you're going to love it at 3.8. Anyway, so Johanneton said Zella is listed as Argentinian on Sorare and Sorare data, which is hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious. He is actually born.
He is. He just has to have like a grandparent that was Armenian, and Armenia would allow him to play international football.
Poppy from Armenia. Anyway.
I mean, Lucho Costa's American, Laird, we found out today. So
we found out today, yeah. So so this is like the big price. It's as simple as that. And so Germ says swap Zela for Lucho, and I'm not even going to read the rest.
We can go, yeah. We'll go. We can go into something like that later when we talk about America. But
no, I'm not. I just sold Lucho also, so I'm not doing anything to pump his price.
It's not. Look at Lucho's upside. He has like 100. Zella is like 100 every 5 games or something. Feels like. So.
Yeah, that's when. Yeah. Anyway. So the one thing to point out is we have 30 players. So anyone gets hurt or suspended or their team is off for a week for a cup match, you don't have a lineup. So obviously you need more than this. You also are not playing any cap division yet. Or if you are, you're taking it from here. So I don't think 220
and none of these are good cap players.
What's that?
That's the problem too. None of these are good cap players. Not even 270.
They're all really bad. Like really bad.
They're all really bad cap players.
Like Andre Blake has the lowest L15 at 51.
Right.
And what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them are below 60.
Right.
Like they're even bad for 270, let alone.
That's what I'm saying. Like you can't. They're just bad in cap. Period.
So the funny thing is that the lowest 4 and 5 of the lowest 6 are goalies.
That's funny.
So
explains why spending up on goalies though doesn't always matter. But I will say this on the goalie thing, and you did it as you're building the lineup for the most part, but I think we're very, very pro pair the goalie, pair the defender.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And like and I think a lot of times too, when you're searching for your goalie, I almost think it's better to search for the defenders that you like and then pick the goalie to go with it versus the other.
So I'm not even going to go into that now. But yes, I was doing that recently. I was looking for a goalie, and I was like, actually, maybe I should look for the defender and then go with the goalie. Because there are plenty of goalies that you think are good or they don't matter, and you're like, I'll just get this one. And then you find out the defenders on the team are awful, and you're just like buying yourself into that. And then again,
you're like, I want none of them.
But it's a lot. Your upside is so much better if they're on the same team. They benefit from the clean sheet together. Simple as that. So I don't know if someone goes in to goes with like I'm going to just get all the best players and also wants to play 220. And so I actually don't even think that's a consideration. Like, don't worry about it.
Right.
You know what you should do is use all the players all the T4s and 5s that you win with these lineups that you think are super and win stars every week. That's who you use in 220 and 240. And like even this, like a 51 L15 for Andre Blake makes it hard to play 240 because you need
you're right on average.
Right.
Well, you're a little bit above average.
You're above.
You're like a 48 or whatever. Yeah, you're a little bit above.
And so you're still going to need to find players who are not this good, like fundamentally that they're worse so that they fit. But again, or 270, you can always mix and match. But Keith, if you were getting into this and you were like, yeah, what does it cost to buy all like the best limiteds? And I was like, it's like $4,000. Do you actually go and buy limiteds?
Absolutely not. Like there's no chance. Like that's I think the indication that you probably go up to rare.
Right. So because like Bouncy says in the chat, would you not just play rares at this point?
And that's kind of where we were leading you at that point. But like go to the pick any of those lineups. Go to like All-Star, any of the All-Stars. But you know what we consider our best one with Kimmich and Mbappe. All right. Rewards when all the players like look on the side in terms of your 6 months and what you're yielding, like just from actual results.
We can actually. So it looks like this would have won.
That's a great one.
347.
That would have won like first place. So do we know that for sure?
It looks like first place.
Doesn't really tell us. Okay, so that alone, especially at that time, probably pays for a lot of it.
I don't think
Maybe.
So. It probably buys one of the players in the lineup.
Well, considering one's Mbappe and his price back then, yes, good point.
So that was, I think it was Champ Europe that I had this. Yeah, Champ Europe. So Kimmich was the All-Star Limited first place that week.
Okay.
And Champ Europe was also Kimmich. Oh, Surface.
Look at that.
Surface on your Kimmich. All right, so now you have 2 Kimmichs, which is great. You can sell it, but you also still have to make up for these.
Right.
Pablo's saying if you have 3K, you'll get better ROI on limited than rare.
And it depends on how you use it.
Right. So, all right, so that one won Kimmich. Where did oh, wait. Sorry, I keep like clicking around. It's annoying.
Yeah, it's fine.
Following week is a tier 2 limited, then no reward for 2 weeks, then 3 weeks. That's 3 weekends. Is it? Yeah, these are all weekends when they play. Then a tier 2, no reward, tier 1. So we want a tier 1, a tier 2, and a star in 6 months.
2 tier 2s.
Oh, is it 2? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but that's not, and you're not having fun at that point too, knowing how much you've spent.
So So that is one point that I think we need to count on, that like you run this lineup out. And I mean, you know what it comes down to is you win a reward most of the time that, well, that's going to go back in. I was going to say, if Allison keeps a clean sheet, you win a reward.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work that way because this week, whatever it was, game week 363, he only had 44. Trent banged 100.
You have a tier 2 there. You have a 2, but you if Allison takes a clean sheet, you have like podium chances. What you mean? Yeah.
Right. So, as good as your players are, you just need the clean sheet too, and then you're fine. So that's that one. The Challenger one,
not so good.
Has the highest finish in the last 6 months was a tier 3.
That's wild, actually, considering how both of those teams are always so dominant.
Right.
That's really surprising.
Well, wait a minute.
Tier 0.
That's weird.
Yeah. Might have just been a shortened week or something.
No, I think that was here we go. 359, 366, tier 0. That can't be right because it says tier 0 is like 400. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyhow.
So, again, I think the really important thing is just how often you're winning a star, because like stars are what pay these lineups off. Correct. Even if we say tier 1s, and they just don't do it all that often. U23 is kind of hit. Schlotterbeck was hurt for a while, so maybe this was a bad example. So the America one. Oh, Messi's.
Oh, you also have this in global, by the way. Okay, that's one in global. Okay.
No. This was global.
Yeah.
So we got a tier 0 here in 347. But again, De Bruyne's hurt a lot, which, like, again, even if you put somebody else in there instead of De Bruyne, like, it's going to be, I mean, if it's Kimmich, I guess, then you're fine. Use the Kimmich that you just won.
Sure. I like that.
Or just snowball and rewards. But still, 0 tier 0s in 6 months. With Courtois, Van Dijk, Kimmich, Tadic, and Griezmann. So, yeah, like if I'm not going to go too much into this. Obviously, it costs 36 grand at this point to buy these cards. Like, you're not going to buy these cards in rare, obviously. But it's just too much. It's just too much, I think. If you want all of the best players here, I just don't think it's not as easy as everyone thinks it is. And that's why we went through this exercise.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
No, I think, you know, we both know this and kind of wanted to show it based on like the audience in terms of like who's new, who's not. But it just goes back to what we've kind of harped on, like where we started the show with pick scores and two, how matchups are that much more important. Like, you know, my boy Livalent, who I'm gonna make famous as an LTO OG, but you know, Livalent at home versus the worst team in Ligue 2, you know, I will take over, you know, Wendell away toward, you know, Sparta Moscow in Russia. You know, even though Zenit's the dominant team, away to, you know, a top 4 team, that's not that great of a spot. And I think that's where we really just have to like harp in the fact that it's not just about the top players. It's about having the top players in the top spots to win. Like knowing when to use your Andre Blake, Kai Wagner, let's say that you want to do Jack Elliott stack, knowing when to run that in the top priority lineup versus, you know, away to San Jose, you got to start downgrading it.
Yep. And I think it's important to remember that they need to have the really good matchups when other people have really good matchups too.
Exactly.
Like it's not just, Philly's got a good matchup, I'm set. And it's like, no. You also need New England. Well, yes, I'll say that.
That's where lineup prioritization, which we talked about for like 5 minutes during the lineup prioritization show, came in, is, you know, All-Star is your first one, so plucking out these lineups, and you mentioned Quinny is doing a great job. I'm trying to convince myself to do it as I go through too, but it doesn't matter that I'm maybe hurting Champion America Rare Pro. All-Star Rare Pro is my number one lineup. Let me focus on having the best matchups in here, so I maximize the chances of this one to compete for a podium. And I think that's kind of where we want to go. Yeah, I saw the captain comment. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that changes things a little bit. I don't think it's going to change it too much.
It hasn't changed it much. But I also think you have to realize that not winning one tier 0 is not enough.
Right.
And so, I finished 3rd in Challenger Limited a few months ago and won Grimaldo. I didn't win Tadic. I didn't win any of the Zenit guys because you can't. I won Grimaldo, and that's not paying off the lineup. I don't even remember what the lineup was.
It's getting you a good chunk towards it. I mean, when you're comparing ROI to, I do always think I think sometimes we make the mistake of not just looking at what the lineup costs versus what we get back, not realizing that if we were to sell off all the guys at that given moment, they do have value. So just saying, I made $100 on a $600 lineup, and now I'm done. I only made 1/6 of my investment. Well, you're gonna sell that lineup, I would assume, and not just let it sit out there forever. You're probably gonna get a decent chunk of it back. Maybe not. Maybe your timing is horrible, but I think that's worth the conversation. It's just not easy for us to equate on the graph.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And the other one that I need to, this other comment from ZM Star, and I think fundamentally this is the point, because the more you think about only ROI, the less you're going to get out of this game. And so he said, I sold rares after looking at Sorare as a PS5 game. Fun is trumping any idea of an ROI in terms of money value. I don't get money from playing anything else. And then Malky said, I think that's the way to go. I've decided to collect all the players from my 2 favorite teams in Limited. Then if I have any money left over, play around with other leagues and players. And so I'm not here to say that earning some sort of return on these cards is not important. Obviously it's important. It's the reason it's important is because it's the easiest way to know if we're playing this game well. If you buy all these cards and win nothing from it and sell them for less, you're obviously not going to do well in the game. But that's how we know we're doing well. When you win Kimmich, you're like, shit, I am playing this game well. But if you do it once, if you win one Kimmich after spending $4,000, are you winning? And now you have to consider, did you do it with your Zenit stack? Did you do it with a Chicago Fire stack? Whatever you did, you just have to. The fun has to be considered. Enjoyment.
So to bring Ben's comment up, I kind of want to comment on that because I don't want that to be the takeaway.
So Ben said, I'm essentially playing 2 games: fun and limited, ROI and rare.
And I want to make sure that I do not think I get it, Ben. I'm going to disagree just because of this. I think what the point we're actually trying to get across is just going, I'm going to play limited because I can just buy all the best players and just run them out and, not have to think about things. I'm just going to have the 5 best, press click and go. We're trying to make the point that is not going to get you the results that you need. And guess what? Even though playing those 5 guys is fun, not winning with them is probably not going to be fun. It's probably going to be a torture. What I think, at least I want to get across with it, is you can do really well and you can get ROI in limited. You've got to be strategic and you've got to play your matchups and not just auto. Well, hell, Sorare data will help you auto populate. That does pretty darn well, actually. But you need to not just go into Sorare and go Courtois, TAA, Kimmich, Mbappe, why am I blanking? VVD. And I'm done. I'll show up in 4 days and take my podium reward, please. Thank you. It's just not going to work. You're going to see somebody run up with Alexander Scholes. He drops 100 and you go, who in the heck is this guy?
Yeah.
Or Alexander Scholes with Ben Livelant, with Becker as your forward. Like, who else can we shoehorn into this lineup, right?
Yeah.
That would be kind of my point.
Yeah, but even if you're like, well, I'm just going to play Champion Europe because those are the players I know and all that stuff. Like, even just buying those 5 players doesn't always work. Like, Rafael Guerrero outscored TAA and
Absolutely
Van Dijk
smashed
in a ton of weeks. And you have like, I'm trying to look at the rankings now. Like, Domenico Berardi and Koulibaly's. Well, he's actually finished terribly, but there are plenty of other guys who score really well in this game, and it takes some work to find those guys, but it's probably a significantly better ROI on those guys than just buying these the top 5 most expensive players and running them out, because the tier 3s and 4s and 5s that you win with those guys really just don't pay off. And the amount of tier 0s you need to win to make those guys pay off is a lot more than 1. Like, that's the problem. Like, you need to win a lot in order to pay those guys off.
Yep. But like this weekend's actually like a really good example, because we have international. We have a lot of these, killer players in play. But like for me, I showed you this. I was just playing around, and like, I'm gonna have some fun this weekend and see how many lineups I can put out for a pretty cheap price tag. And like, I'm targeting Luxembourg. Luxembourg's minus 1,000 favorite at home. As I roll, minus 1,000 favorite at home, because I'm not going to target anybody not at home. But you can get their goalkeeper for $30, who has actual like midweek and challenger utility next year. You can get good scoring defenders for $4 to $5. So I'm having a little bit of fun with that coming up this weekend. And again, I could go target, I think Italy's playing, but I could target Donnarumma. I could target Mike. I can never say. I just call him Magic Mike. But, I could target Magic Mike, all these guys. But to me, like, a fun way to do it, but also trying to get ROI is, you know what? I'm going to try to go chase down these lineups with Morris, Chanot stacks. That's how I'm rolling some fun this weekend.
So that's the best example, I think, for this upcoming weekend, because like France also plays. You would never consider them because they're playing away, even though it's to Gibraltar. But
no, they have double game. I think they have one at home. But
okay. I mean, it's the Gibraltar matchup that everybody is looking at least. But like, obviously, building from France, I think I'm trying to look here that the top 4, so the top 5 biggest favorites for the upcoming game week. I don't know why I don't just pull this up on the screen, because I'm literally looking at Sorare data. For anyone who needs to look at who wants to find this, it's in SO5, the Game Week Center. Skip up to 381 and just go to matchups. So we've got France, England, Switzerland, Kazakhstan, and Luxembourg. I don't know.
There's my guys.
Right. So like Luxembourg ahead of Portugal, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Turkey, Wales.
River.
So you can buy a France stack. It's going to cost you a lot. The Luxembourg one will not. And this is totally like a different strategy conversation. Ben is in on this. He said, I've targeted Albania because they have Moldova this game week and Faroe Islands next. Absolutely love it. I cannot believe those games are going to be scored, but hey, love it.
And hold on, what's the second, for those that really want to geek out with me, which, come on, join the fun. But if you looked at the second game on Monday, if you want to go have a Pookie party, they are hosting Faroe Islands on Monday.
That's Finland?
Finland, yeah.
No, San Marino.
Sorry, even worse than Faroe Islands. My bad. San Marino is the single worst team in all, I think, of like the actual scored world. Like they hasn't seen. No, I'm serious. Like I think they've scored something like 1 goal in 5 years, and like they celebrated like. I think they've like lost 1-8, but the celebration was on that they scored.
So this doesn't happen every week. Obviously, we're in an international break.
No,
so
this is a special time, but the point remains that you can.
But like PSG are usually pretty heavy favorites, and Bayern are usually pretty heavy favorites. And so there is something to finding those other players that just buying the best ones, you miss out on some of that stuff because, again, they're not always big favorites, and you need them to really pay off. You need all of them to hit in the same game week.
Well, and even more than that too, it's not just like targeting like your PSG's types too. You can target your lineup 2 weeks ago. One of your hundreds was Jonas Hoffman, who had an awesome matchup at home, and it was a spot that you could project as like he has a really good shot for 100 here, like, and he did. So I want to just say this too. It's not just like going and getting the PSGs and the Rivers and those type of teams of the world. It's also like where you can, if you have some depth or you scout kind of properly or build your gallery up properly, you have those guys that are going to be like mid-table or maybe upper mid-table. Gladbach's kind of upper mid-table in the Bundesliga, but they're at home against the worst team that's already been relegated and everybody's ready to go home and they're just in an absolute smash spot. Like that's the type of things that you can look for. And, I think it's really fun in our gallery. Sean talked about it on Monday too. I thought it was like a great point. He brought up Melly Mulestein, right? I think he was talking about Melly Mulestein and how that matchup, home in a game that they needed to win versus a team that was already relegated, that made a ton of sense. And he's playing Melly Mulestein with, Mbappe. And I think that's kind of, to your point, the beauty of Sorare is not like playing Virgil, Mbappe, and those types with your best cards, but it's like tossing in a Melly Mulestein, tossing in a little Luxembourg stack. Like I have, my also rare pro this weekend. I have Carlos Gil in a great lineup with a Luxembourg stack. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely it. And I think the buying the best player strategy is the positive in it is that it's easy. And easy doesn't mean it's easy to play. It's not necessarily easy to win. It's certainly easier to like probably win a reward, but winning like a bunch of tier 4s with like the best players doesn't always feel good. And then I'm not even going to get into the luck of like when you actually get a podium or a first place and like what you win from that, because it's also like you could win Champion Europe 4 times and never win Mbappe and never win Kimmich. And like you need to have that luck on your side also. And so I totally get it from a enjoyment standpoint of, do I want to put in Maxime Chenot in my regular lineup, or do I want to put in Virgil van Dijk? Like Virgil van Dijk is more fun. I get it.
Yep.
And I think that's an important part of this process. But ultimately, like we said, we're at like almost $4,000 this lineup?
Right.
Yeah, almost $4,000 for a lineup that, now again, you're not playing it all the time. Like all the leagues don't overlap all the time, but it's expensive if you want like all of the good ones. And not to say that that's bad. Like if you want to spend that money on all these limiteds, go nuts. But I think moving up to rare probably at some point makes sense, even for capped.
I think maybe do you like this for a barometer of maybe you should, like where you should do the question, maybe you should be in rare when you get on your 4th lineup and you are looking at still Courtois or Allison or, oh man, I still have Tadic left over. Oh my gosh, my second Kimmich is still there. At that point, do you think that that's the time that maybe you should consider moving up?
That seems reasonable. Like you're just
maybe
sitting
that's our
next.
answer. Yeah, you're just like, oh man, I don't know, just a Virgil in training, huh? Interesting. Like, because that's the interesting thing I kind of brought up too last week, but Limited doesn't have a ton of extra things like where you can't mix scarcities. So you get through these 5 and, let's say that you only have these elite guys, like we said, you can't even go into cap mode without adding more people. So, right. Like, you're done. Like anything that you had left over, they're going to training.
Yeah. So I was just trying to figure out how much it costs for like the rare team, or the rare America team. And the price is obviously really inflated because of
screws
Messi.
it up. Yep.
So Messi's at $1,400, or sorry, that's not even today. It's even higher. He's at $1,700 now. $1,000 for Blake, $950 for Carlos Heel. Blake above Heel is crazy. $775 for Zelarayan and $437 for Kai Wagner. Like that's basically the range of, do you want all of those limiteds or the 5 or arguably the best Champion America team in rare? And those are just the things that you have to decide which one you want to use.
And it's like, I'm going to venture a little off topic, but I think one interesting thing too with America, I feel at least, versus maybe the other, I actually don't even like this point, but I'm going to keep going. Carlos Gil, even though we'll downgrade him, there's rarely a time in the MLS that you go, he's absolutely dead. Like that, he can't do anything. Same deal with Wagner. Same deal, obviously, is going to be with Messi. Same deal with Zelarayan. Like there's rarely a matchup in the MLS just because their talent disparity is so much greater than the rest of the league just on their individual talent. That, in MLS, I feel like it's a little bit more okay to just almost run out these 5 just smashers because you're just betting on the talent than it is necessarily in Champ Europe. But it's still always going to be better to take the matchups.
Sure.
Like I'll still take the Chanot AA that he's going to get as a minus 1,000 favorite than I would, Kai Wagner away to Seattle.
Do you have a forward to put in other than Messi?
Cucho. Sorry, but that literally is like the top forward in America. Right?
Never heard of him. So somebody was asking.
He pairs with Zello really well.
I'm going to put in some XP for all these players. I put in a little more for Wagner and Blake because of collection bonus. Oh, I guess I should do that with Cucho too and Zelarayan.
Yeah.
I'll give. So, because somebody was asking, Ben Johnson, does it win in rare? And the answer is it would have won Champion America rare 3 game weeks ago. That's a midweek, actually. Gotta love that.
And then
tier 2 2 weekends ago, and then another tier 2 this past weekend.
With a really bad Blake game that if you had depth, you would have avoided.
The
Blake spot was
the Blake spot. Yeah. Wagner still crushed.
So
the answer is yes.
So that helped.
Yeah, and of course you can play this in All-Star if you wanted to.
Which is like a big plus during the summer when not a lot is going on to be able to use those guys in All-Star, with the hopes of winning a top champ Europe guy. Not always a guarantee, depending on how they do the prize pools. But
it is kind of crazy that it's almost the exact same price. Like
it's
$3,800 for the limited lineup. I already lost the screen. $3,800 for all of those limited cards, or for the 5 best American.
Which one would you choose? Which one would you choose?
Well, I chose, and then I chose
rare
before, and then I got rid of them all.
But would you still choose right now? Which one would you choose?
I think if I was starting out, I would pick the limiteds.
Yeah, I think the limited would be more fun.
Rui said, "Isn't this show limited time only?" It is, but we're showing what.
And I just chose limiteds.
Yeah, we literally just said we would take all the limiteds.
I think too, it's just the reality of being able to diversify, like your options, and have the times that you have more stuff go off. Like, when you spend that much on just one lineup, and Zelarayan pulls a hamstring in the 30th minute, like it's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Your hopes and dreams have gone away, and that kind of sucks. Like it sucks to only have like that one lineup on the weekend and somebody gets hurt early, and it just kills that sweat. So I like being able to diversify across. But I think what we're trying to get across though too is you don't have to spend $3,000 to diversify across those things. You don't need all the best. You can mix in some really good players that don't have the name premiums and do just as well.
Yeah, and also I don't think it's no, that's not reasonable. But I think there are plenty of people who are like, no, I don't need the best America and Asia guys. Like, I'm happy to just not play those guys, and I'll spend the 2,000 on the best champ Europe and Challenger. That's cool.
And wait, that's fine too. I mean, Chani, right? Chani's on to, by the way, for plug for tomorrow. That's going to be an awesome show with you, Chani and Black. I can't wait. Yeah. But, you know, Chani's taking the summer off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
yeah, just doesn't want to do it.
Completely okay. It's completely okay. You don't have to play. You know, I try to tell this on the, you know, I have officially retired from DFS content. It feels great. But, you know, I used to tell DFS people all the time, you don't have to play every slate. And same deal with Sorare. You don't have to play every game week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So midweek, you don't have a full lineup. It's okay. Go apple picking.
It sucks, though.
It's not okay.
I said it just sucks, though.
I will say, you know this, but I screwed up a lineup and just screwed up. I screwed up a lot this past weekend in terms of work getting in the way. And I had a terrible weekend in terms of just not following games because I just didn't want to know what happened. It does suck.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's all we got for today. Like, literally the point of this entire show was to figure out how much it costs to get the best guys in, because there have been a number of people who have reached out to us just about that. Should I play rare? Should I just buy the best limiteds? We had people in chat here who have done both. And so no one is wrong. Like, you can just do what you want to do, but just know that what you can get for the same price as you can get this other stuff. And that's kind of what we wanted to do. Like I said, I think this show is probably better in a few months, but sometimes you just give the people what they want. So thank you to everybody for joining us. If you could please hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. As Keith mentioned, so we're Andrews tomorrow. We will be joined by Chani to talk to him about how insane he is for taking the summer off. It's fundamentally just that. We're just going to boo him until he decides to buy Carlos Heel. And then Friday, I'll be back with Off Topic. I actually have like numerous topics I'm going to discuss. Let me rephrase that. I plan on.
So is the goal going to be to get? Will the goal to be get off those topics?
I think it's to get off one topic to go to another. There are a lot of things I want to get through. Trust me, I have things to say, and that's where I'm going to say them. And then yes, next week for more. So thank you everybody for joining us, and good luck over the international break.